coming up in all angles, the public health system from the inside. Doctors tell their stories of overwork, fatigue, depression, and more.
We're robots, and we're expected to work even though we're also sick.
How their working conditions affect them and impact you.
We're doing procedures on patients in little hot, musty rooms, no fan, trying not to drip our sweat on the patients.
Thank you so much for joining us for All Angles. I'm Dion Jackson Miller, and welcome to our viewers on onespotmedia.com. Now, the Sunday Gleaner carried a story entitled "No Work for Doctors" about the number of doctors who have not had their contracts renewed. The Ministry of Health, in response, put out a statement saying that the sector has its full cadre of clinical staff and that there has been no reduction in the numbers of doctors employed in the system. The doctors say that's just a problem. They say the system is so severely understaffed that it's creating stress and dangers for them as well as for the patients. Now, we wanted to take you inside the hospitals as seen through the eyes of the doctors who work there, but we had a problem. Most of them are on contracts. They're afraid to speak publicly for fear of victimization. So later in the program, we'll be hearing from two Jamaican doctors now working in the United States who feel free to speak freely. And we'll also be hearing from the health minister and the opposition spokesman on health. In this segment of the program, though, what you're going to hear are stories from doctors who are currently working in our hospitals here as voiced and portrayed by some of our team members.
I recall days of doing 24 hours on-call duty as the only resident and one intern while sick. I could not stop to eat, to take my medication, because it was just too much work. A referral here, a referral there, an emergency here. Interns need help. The interns need supervision. Who does it if you're sick out and you can't work? I stayed because we are robots, and we are expected to work even though we are also sick. The following morning, that is after the 24-hour shift, yes, we still have to continue working 8 to 4 even after working 24 hours prior. On that ward round following the 24-hour duty, I fainted. I was dehydrated. I was roasting with a fever. But in my mind, I could not leave because there was nobody else to replace me. And if there is no doctor, what happens to the patient? I had to be sent home on sick leave, and that guilt that I felt was unmatched, because that meant that somebody else was going to have to be pulled to replace me, leaving that person with extra work. Many of the doctors we know, including myself, have severe acid reflux or peptic ulcer disease. Why? We don't eat. We are working 8 hours, and if you are on call, 24 hours. And you don't eat. You don't have time to eat. We are hungry. We develop acid reflux. Some of us start vomiting blood. Yes, it happens. I remember days before going to work because I'm on call and I have to lie there and cry for about an hour or just calm myself down because I need to function when I go to work, and nobody can see that I'm dying on the inside. Why? Because we are short-staffed. How many times have we heard, "Oh yeah, these doctors are miserable. They don't know how to talk to people." Yes, I'm not saying that there aren't a few. However, imagine having to work like what I just described, 7 days per week. Yes, at most hospitals, doctors are working 7 days per week. You are doing this day after day with no break. Ask for leave, you probably won't get it because there isn't anybody to replace you. So you are working like this non-stop. What use are you to yourself? What use are you to anybody around you at home? What use are you to your patients? If you are not functioning at 100%, barely 50%, how are you expected to then give a patient 100%? You have to smile and be courteous to a frustrated patient or relative who is screaming at you. You have to respond to emergencies even though you are dying from exhaustion. You can't make a mistake. Now there are doctors sitting at home when one doctor in a hospital is doing the work of 3. How does that make sense? We struggle with anxiety, PTSD, depression, as a result of all the stress. There are doctors who are meeting into accidents on the road going home because they are so tired. This is what a short-staffed system does, and it has always been. It is almost unacceptable for one doctor to do the job of 4. Patients deserve better. Even if you won't look at us, the patients deserve better.
I am a medical officer. Internship at the Bustamante Hospital for Children was one of the most stressful rotations. On duty night, there are only 2 interns who covered the whole medicine department, 5 wards. Each ward hosts 25 to 30 patients. Procedures on children usually require 2 persons, as taking blood from an adult is not the same as taking blood from a child. So if one intern is taking the history of a new patient and another intern is doing a procedure alone in the treatment room, who responds to the calls on the other wards? The baby who requires a transfusion because he is dying of dengue. Who helps the other intern who is holding the baby or child doing the procedure? Who goes to the lab and collect results? Or blood transfusion? Who goes to give chemotherapy to the children with cancer who require medication every 12 to 6 hours? Who goes to assist children who crash and need resuscitation? Who cites the IV access for the child having diarrhea who need fluids? The hospital is severely understaffed. 2 interns and 2 residents cover the whole department every night. Parents curse me out saying they have to be waiting long. And I have to sign a police report for a parent who threatened to kill me because he had to wait long. I work all night to get everything done. So after working 8 a.m. one day to 8 a.m. the next day, I have to stay back to work my regular 8-hour shift. But the work has to be done. So now I have to stay after 4 o'clock until 8 p.m. When work finishes at 4 and we leave at 8 p.m., we do not get paid overtime for that. After working that 36-hour shift, I had to work the next day. And a next 36-hour shift may be 2 days after. So when doctors make mistakes and patients die or suffer, it is because the system is understaffed and we are burdened and cannot say anything. On my first duty, I cried. It was 8 p.m. I went to use the bathroom and the resident acted as if I left for an hour. They claim they give us dinner as you can't leave the hospital and there's nothing to buy after 6 p.m. But what is white rice and mackerel thrown in a box, left on a ward in the open? But it didn't matter because there was no time to eat. That night driving home, I almost crashed. I made up my mind that I was not going to stay, and I'm currently working my hardest to get out of this country. People may say we get paid for 36-hour work. I get $10,000 extra on my basic salary and almost lost my life.
I vividly remember a time before I was a doctor when I was in full support of free healthcare because I understand the financial hardships faced by people and how that impacts their ability to access treatment. Fast forward to me working in the public system and getting perspective from the other side that people don't get to see or understand. People are given the impression that with free healthcare, the government is funding first-class treatment, when in actuality, it's a flood of patients on the healthcare system without sufficient resources. This directly impacts patient care, and the doctors are the ones on the front line receiving the lashing and disrespect from the patients because there is no bed space, for example. There are also not enough doctors to attend to the influx of patients, so there's an overwhelming patient-doctor ratio. Then again, we are attacked because they've been waiting for hours without being seen. When it is that they finally do get seen, we don't have the necessary instruments or basic amenities to treat them. At baseline, we are doing procedures on patients in little, hot, musty rooms, no fans, trying not to drip or sweat on the patients. Blood and other bodily fluids splashing on us because we don't have proper protective equipment. And even if we did, we would be too hot to wear them. We stand on our feet for hours on end, 36 and sometimes 52-hour shifts, going and going. No food, no water, no time to even eat or drink even if we had food or water. Just seeing patients back to back, falling asleep trying to take a patient's history because we can't stay awake no matter how we try. Working and working until the sun comes up and we're still at work. And at the first interaction with each patient, we receive disrespect and curse words because they've been waiting so long to be seen. During this process, we are expected to be sharp enough to make sharp and emergent assessments because we are directly responsible for saving lives. We are expected to be academic on tired brains and dehydrated bodies. At the end of it all, the day is done and rest is forthcoming, and we try to muster up the last bit of energy we have left to just make it home, and then boom, we crash. Some of us die because our eyes couldn't stay open to get us there. It's a thankless job. People don't care about our side of the story because they think we get paid well enough anyway, not understanding that we also have bills and loans, and a lot of us are the first in our family to be financially successful, so we therefore become responsible for taking care of our whole families. We are people too. We go home and the only free time we have is to catch up on sleep to start over again. We don't have time for relationships and lives outside of work. We don't have time to have our own children. I remember at a children's hospital, and a parent who was waiting long to be seen came to me and told me that it's true me can't breathe, why I am making her child suffer. When I was seeing back-to-back patients, others more critical than her child. I will never forget that. A patient told me thank you once, and I cried.
I am currently a medical officer working in the Southeast Regional Health Authority. During my senior health officer year, I was placed at the Princess Margaret Hospital. I was sent to St. Thomas against my will, but I went with an open mind, eager to work in this new parish. To my surprise, Princess Margaret was a Type C hospital functioning like a Type A or a Type B, but with the staff of a Type D, if there is even such a thing. At Princess Margaret Hospital, on-duty nights start at 4 p.m. There are 2 doctors assigned. The doctors cover the A&E department and also cover the whole hospital. That includes the maternity ward, children's ward, and the regular medicine and surgical ward. I hope you can understand what that means. Between 4 p.m. and 8 a.m. the next morning, we would get between 40 to 50 patients. This includes children and adults. It does not end there. These 2 doctors also have to go to the operating theater to assist with any surgery that come in that night. That includes C-sections, an appendectomy, gunshot wounds, any lacerations, or stab wounds. The 2 doctors have to decide how they are going to split the work that night and deal with it. So, the doctors are covering A&E, the operating theater, the pediatric ward, the maternity ward, the medicine ward, and the general surgery ward. This includes attending any patient who needs resuscitation, any blood transfusions, any mother who delivers and need stitches, in addition to seeing people who come into A&E and deciding who is urgent and who needs to be sent home. Tell me about understaffed. Why don't they hire more medical officers? How is that even a thing? Every duty, I was terrified. It was a lot of work and we had no senior. There is no A&E consultant at the Princess Margaret Hospital and it operates like a Type B hospital. And that is when I was there, which was last year. We had little guidance at the hospital. If emergencies come in during the night, we have to wait and stabilize until the consultant comes, most times from Kingston. So you have to be a jack of all trades, skilled in pediatrics, skilled in maternity, skilled in surgery. I learned to think quick on my feet and handle situations. That is one thing that I benefited from, that experience at the Princess Margaret Hospital. Patients cursed us like dogs, coming to the A&E, batting us up to be seen, literally cursing bad words at us. We have to swallow it and just continue working. When anything happens on those wards, whether it is a mother who suffered a neonatal death and their partner is upset, they come onto the ward shouting and yelling, not understanding how strained the system is. I have to prioritize. Do I attend to the gunshot wound in A&E? Do I run down to attend to the mother who is hemorrhaging? Now that to me is a health crisis and a lot of patients suffer. They don't understand the other side of the situation. That is just 2 doctors serving the whole hospital. Until you experience something like that, you will never understand.